talking about creating a learning culture or a learning environment. One of the things I realize when I work with a group or a team is I don't want to simply have them connect relationally. I want to create an environment where learning is optimized, where people can engage ideas and express truth, etc. So here's a few things that I try to be aware of, and maybe you can as you work with your teams or you teach a group or a class, as you lead your management team, whatever. The first is the varied learning styles. This is fairly popular teaching around auditory learners and kinesthetic learners and experiential learners. I think we know that, and we've been exposed to that. Many of you know that there are those who learn best by doing, or learn best by hearing, or by reading, or by sort of on-the-job, experiential, got to get my head and hands around it and try it a few times and be mentored by someone. Each of us has different ways that we prefer to learn. But when a group of people comes together, obviously you have a variety of those styles, so you need to vary the learning style along the way. So whether it's group interaction or a debate or a case study or a lecture or a teaching moment for a few minutes or something you have everyone read or prepare ahead of time or watch or take them out on an experience. I remember taking a group of people to a homeless sort of shelter to spend some time, because I couldn't just teach about it. We had to actually engage and feel it and see the people and see the environment. That was an optimized learning experience. So vary your learning styles. Second thing is, don't be afraid to engage truth, to name reality, to say what needs to be said, whether that's content that you're teaching for your particular sort of area of expertise, or you've got some new data to share with your team. Engage it. Don't just talk about it, process it, ask the difficult questions, flip it around and look at the opposite point of view. Do what you need to do to engage the truth, not simply declare it. It's one thing to declare it, it's another thing to really get in there and engage it and allow others to speak into it, tear it apart, whatever they need to do. Another principle to create a learning environment is to seek to understand first. Again, it's common. It's been said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. But I know for me, I'm a person who's frankly a little too selfish sometimes and is too interested in what I want to say or my point of view. And so I'm not really paying attention to you. I'm not paying attention to what you're saying and how you're thinking. So if I seek first to understand, I'm going to ask follow-up questions, clarifying questions. I'm going to get into your world instead of thinking constantly about my world. So that's another principle I found is really helpful to draw people out. Finally, I would say really push the idea of putting the truth or the content or the issue into practice. It's sort of spending enough time in your meeting or with your team to say, so what do we do with this? Sort of a, how shall we now live? Even one of the greatest teachers of all time, Jesus of Nazareth, at the end of his greatest sermon, the Sermon on the Mount, said, hey, if you don't take these things I've taught and put them into practice, you're a fool. And you're like a person who builds a house on the beach instead of on solid rock. And the storms will come and wash that house away. So the idea of simply talking about an issue or thinking about an issue isn't sufficient. It's important to say, what are we going to do with this? I hope that helps as you think about creating a learning culture.